good friends, mentor.
What's going on, Mr. Haskins? Always a pleasure to see you. Absolutely. Tell us how.
Got these. Come on, babe. Y'all see? Can you see my beautiful wife? Please.
Kris, I got a lot to do. I'm sorry. Not today.
I'm sorry, Round Up. I got these for my house. I bought the house and the people. I asked the guy, do you want those Samsung washer dryer? And it's got the thing under the bottom.
Yeah, the platform.
The guy goes, I don't want them. I said, okay, well, I'll just take them out of here then.
So they got commandeered by the Haskins house.
Yeah, I'm just saying, these stories, you can't.
You cannot.
On in our lives regarding investing. Dan's been in the business. Oh yeah, I forgot. I gotta make sure Dan didn't fall asleep. Wake your butt up. Wake your ass. This is the show where we try to keep Dan Borrero.
You're never gonna let me forget
asleep.
that one, are you?
Then wake your ass.
You're never gonna let me forget that one.
We gotta make sure Dan stays awake. So
it's past my bedtime, guys.
Me too. I'm struggling. But I want to just share with y'all for real what's going on in our lives, and hopefully we can help you with your real estate business. Dan, anything new with you, man? You sold a building last week. Can a brother hold something?
So I sold this property that I owned since 1999, and I reluctantly was signing the deed the day I sold it. But it was I had to continuously keep repeating to myself, remove the emotion. It's about the numbers. It made all the sense in the world for me to sell that property because the property was extremely. There wasn't much more to depreciate. It's been my lowest performing property in New York for the last 8 years, no matter what I've done to it. And the property was in a situation where it was a 2 tenants with a storefront, and at one point I lost one of the tenants, and I was like, you know what? Because both apartments are identical to each other. If I'm ever going to sell this property, let me try to sell it now while one of the apartments is empty, and the realtor could show it, conveniently. And then of course, right. And then what happened was about 6 months. The entire building was fully renovated in the year 2000, between 1999 and 2000. And then I re-renovated the apartments. In the last 5 years, I put in new kitchens, new bath, new windows, new floor moldings, new light fixtures. So because it had been over 20 years, right? So the building was in great shape. The building was solid. But for whatever the reason is, that building, yes, I was making money, but it wasn't worth the time that I was spending on it. So, I'm taking that money, moving it over to another property that we're currently negotiating now with a 1031 exchange, and the cap rate is extremely high. But the best part about it is that with the push value that we're going to do to it, we could it'll add about 100% increase in asset value over the next 3 to 4 years.
Wow, can't beat that.
Yeah, so sometimes, guys, we have to sell and put our emotions to the side because it makes sense, right? But I'm not gonna lie to you, I did it reluctantly.
Dan, I want to ask you. I feel like I'm the man when I'm getting cash flow with a rental property. I'm like, I'm getting monthly cash flow. I'm the shit. Then I sell it. I get this money, and I'm like, man, you're a schmuck. Do you have the same? Well, tell me about those things going in through your head. It's like when you get your money. Well, not for you. I want to ask you. I'm like, I got this money, but now I don't got no daggone asset. You know. So tell me about that dichotomy in your mind.
That's exactly what I'm is happening to me, and I'm anxious because I need to move that money over to another asset that's going to produce higher cash flow, not at the same rate of what I sold. It's got to produce higher cash flow because then it was a waste of time for what I sold.
Oh man, I went Roundup family. I know this may be a little high level for some of us. It was for me till I got older. When you got large amounts of money, at first you feel like a winner. I'm just talking about at the beginning of your career. I will never forget my first 100,000. I just felt like I was just on top of the world, right? I'm like, I did it. I've arrived. Now I look back, I'm like, man, it's just another piece of capital. I got to get working somewhere. So Dan, could you help? What could you help people just to kind of get over that hump of asset versus capital?
Well, cash in the bank is great, but cash in the bank don't make you squat. I mean, now it's making a decent return. You can get, anywhere between 4.5 to 5.25. But at the end of the day, you have to now find a property that's going to give you at least a 7 or 8% cap rate, right? Now, some people tell me that's extremely difficult. And I'm like, and I'm going to agree with them. Absolutely, it is. But the truth is
Business is
that,
difficult.
it has to give a 7 to 8 because otherwise you could leave your money in the bank for 5.25% with no risk in a money market. And you're making your interest and you don't have to work. You're not dealing with
But don't
tenants. You're not dealing with brokers. You're not dealing with attorneys. You're not dealing with insurance brokers, real estate brokers. You're not dealing with contractors. You're not dealing with plumbers, electricians, painters. You're not dealing with a property manager or, again, um, and you're not negotiating the deal. So why not leave the money in the bank? So for me,
you
for
still
me to
got
move that
taxes on
money out
that
of the
too.
bank, I got to be making a 7 or 8% cap rate minimum. Otherwise, I'm not doing it.
Plus, if you are making 5%, don't you pay taxes on that too?
Precisely. So you are paying taxes on that, which brings you right that, depending on which state you're in, anywhere between now. If you're at an 8% cap, you're down to, well, not necessarily, right? Because it depends if you do accelerated depreciation,
I'm talking
what
about with the
capital.
5% in the bank.
Oh, 5% of the bank, yeah, you're gonna pay, and you're paying the taxes on that.
Listen, you know what? It's weird. I had to almost hypnotize myself. I heard you say that earlier. I love talking to you. You've been doing this shit 30 years. You almost have to hypnotize yourself, and you're in there. You're doing deals. Like, okay, I need to. People, I don't even think they comprehend the fact that we have to make. This is like a conscious choice. We have to make a decision to do this stuff.
Yeah, and it's a tough decision, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I couldn't sleep after I sold the building, and we made a shitload of money. I sold that building for over $1 million, 2 family with storefront,
No debt. You have no debt.
no debt,
Now you shook.
and I couldn't sleep. I felt I felt like my wife's like, "Well, what's wrong?"
What's
She
wrong with you?
said,
What's the
"I
matter
said
with you?
I feel like I lost a limb. I feel like I just gave up a limb because I gave up the cash flow."
Isn't that such a weird? I, man, you only way to know that is to go through it.
And I want
Only
everyone to know, my wife was like, I remember when you couldn't sleep when you were doing a deal because you were afraid we couldn't afford it. And I was like, yeah. She goes, now you can't sleep because you made a shitload of money. And I'm like, no, right.
you,
I'm like, I can't sleep because we made a whole lot of money. I can't sleep because I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do with that money to make more money. Otherwise, I shouldn't have sold it.
yo, I'm telling y'all, if you don't get anything else out of this live tonight, earning money is the easy part. What are you going to do after you get it? What is wrong with this thing?
Listen,
Money management. Money management. If you don't know how to manage it, you are so done. You're
this is
done.
this is like what I tell people is like you gotta learn how to have a relationship with money. So people,
Yes.
I had a guy once came to me, he wanted to do a one-on-one consultation. He paid for the one-on-one consultation, and we set it up, and I'm listening to him, and he basically wants me to teach him how to do this business with other people's money. And I'm like, all right, we could do that, but let's talk about you. And we went down, he's 34 years old, makes about $160,000 a year as a correction officer, doesn't want to really work any overtime. He only works to push the overtime that's pushed upon him, lives at home with his mother and father, doesn't pay any rent because because he's living at home. And he only has like $10,000-15,000 in the bank. So I said to him, bro, you make $160,000, you don't have a wife, you don't have no kids, you live at home, you don't pay rent. Where you spending your money? So he said, bro, I got a drop ass 750i BMW. He says, when I go on vacation, I go first class, and when I go to the clubs, I get bottle service, VIP. So I said, okay, so how can I help you? So he says, I just told you, I want you to show me how to do this business with other people's money. I said, I can't do that. He said, why not? I said, why would anybody give you money? You can't manage your own money. You don't have a relationship with money. You don't have a relationship with money. So I can't help you. You're 34 years old. You still haven't figured out a relationship with money. So if you're on this live, I truly hope that you have already figured out how to have a relationship with money, so that everything that Kris and I are talking about, you could put into effect. Because first, you got to understand how money works. You have to understand that you got to save money to be in a position to invest money. You're breaking up, Kris. No, you're better now. Look, the reality
Like
is,
you couldn't tell him like in good conscience, like you're a real conscious dude. Like why I can't even. I'm envisioning you having money people ready to go, right? Like I got money people. We need to find deals. Like why am I have my people loan you money when you can't even manage the money that you already got? I mean, what
and
a waste.
why would you expect anybody to lend you money when you can't manage your own money, right? And what I try, people tell me, yeah, but not all of us were taught that as a kid. You're right, but you're 34 years old. How many more years you going to keep blaming your mother and your father?
Good point.
Social media is free.
Good point. We got 30 people on here, y'all. Give me some thumbs up. Make sure you still hear me, Dan.
Yes,
All right, sorry, y'all. I had the thing that was on. I got a question from.
I don't know.
Let us know about that. Maybe that's a new website. Dan, they be changing stuff every day out here,
Yeah,
man.
educate us. Tell us what that means.
Free 99. Jeff, tell us what a pad split is. Please round up, get your questions in, and make sure you're on here tomorrow. I'm opening up my subject to lease option 3-day virtual workshop, so you guys got to learn this creative finance and stuff. So Dan, we had follow Dan too. What is your handle on YouTube, Dan?
It's USA Land Ventures right here.
Okay, cool. Still can't hear me? Let me go downstairs. So Dan, I wanted to talk to you about the guy that came on IG earlier.
Yes.
And when I've heard you say you have several places sitting empty for many, many months, I want people to understand that the more debt you get into, the harder it is going to be for you to manage your rental properties. Dan, could you just talk about that for a little while?
So look,
Because people think,
when you're
I'm
in
sorry.
when you're over leveraged on your property, it puts a lot more pressure on people, right, to make decisions quickly, even though they may know that. Let's say you have a tenant that's really truly not qualified or doesn't meet your qualifications, and you're going to take a chance on that tenant because you're so worried about that mortgage payment getting paid because you're over leveraged, right? Well, when you put yourself in that position, most people that I know put themselves in that position usually make bad decisions with tenants, and then they find themselves in a position of still not having the money to pay because the tenants are no longer paying. So you're going to be in that position, irregardless of of if you make a bad decision. So don't make bad decisions. Don't put yourself in a position that forces you to make bad positions. Don't over leverage.
That's the secret. I promise y'all, dude. Please, Dad and I have 50 years put together on this real estate thing, dude. And I know y'all can do what you want. I have been there. I am the master of putting bad tenants in properties, dude. I know what it feels like to have about, and then you got to. I was like, I'm gonna have some. I was dead. I thought I could have a tenant move out on the 30th and have my new tenant move in on the first. Have you ever tried that?
It happens, bro. This shit happens.
You've done that? Have you ever been able to do that?
No, but
Well, I was
you're
so
you're in a
stressed.
different state, so you could do that.
No, I'm just saying, I was so stressed. I was thinking about the mortgage payment. I'm like, all right, tenant moved out. My mind was like, dude, I need to have the next tenant moving in immediately. The one move
Wrong.
out.
I've had tenants ask me when they send me their notices that they're leaving. Listen, just let me know. We could schedule for you people to come and see the apartment. I'm like, yeah, I don't do that. And they look at me like, you don't want to show the apartment, before I move out. And I'm like, no. When you move out, I do a walkthrough. I want to make sure anything that I'm going to deduct from the security deposit from, I'm gonna document it with pictures and invoices. I'm gonna get the apartment so that when people move in, there's not even a blemish anywhere, right? So
Wow.
I'm already setting the tone of our relationship
No
with
stress.
the new tenant, right?
Yeah, no
I'm
stress.
not that guy who's gonna try to rent that apartment. They moved out on the 30th, and now I want to rent it out on the first. No, I used to do that because I was over leveraged, and I quickly learned that don't work. Then what
That
happens
shit
is,
don't work.
yeah, there's a problem with the existing tenant when they're leaving, and then the new tenant I can't get. If the existing tenant didn't leave it 100% everything perfectly, which never happens, then I got to tell the new tenant they got a delay coming in. They're telling me, yeah, but I'm already gave notice on my last apartment. I got the movers coming, and I'm like, no, I don't need that stress. So when the tenant moves out, I evaluate the situation.
I
I
love
fix
it.
whatever the situation is.
I
Then I
love it.
start renting the apartment.
I'm smiling with energy there, and I know someone's looking at me like this guy over here. I promise this is where you want to be because we have been where some of you at. Worried about that mortgage payment that's coming for your ass.
Look,
Dead.
we all have that problem, but it gets worse if you're over leveraged.
We got 100 people on here, Dan. Listen, y'all, tomorrow night I'm opening up my subject to lease option. I'm going to show y'all how to get these houses without qualifying for these loans. So make sure you're back here tomorrow. Give us a follow. Why do I only see 5 thumbs up with 100 people on here? Y'all better hit that button down there.
Yeah,
Dan, wake up.
So there's a question here. How many lease will you let go before you raise rent? I'm not sure what that means. Patricia Brown.
Patricia Brown. Is that at the bottom? How many leases
Yeah.
will you let? How many leases will you let
Then there's
before
another one that says, great to have more exit strategies, LTR, MTR,
long-term
SCR.
rental, mid-term rental, short-term rental? Okay, that's that. This is the pad split guy Jeff was
Yeah.
saying. Assisted living.
Sober living, assisted living.
I see people doing that, Dan. I see. In fact, I'm meeting with a lady this week to turn one of my Airbnbs into one of these assisted living things.
Yeah, I got to tell you the truth, guys. I don't know anything about it, so I'm not qualified to make an opinion or give a statement on that.
The problem with these assisted living things, dude, is like no one wants to teach people how to do it. They want to pay you a little bit of rent and they keep all the money. Is that what you experienced, Dan?
No one's approached me with it yet either. So I haven't experienced anything remotely close to it. No.
Out of all that property you got, no one said, Dan, I got assisted living.
Well, listen, the reality is if you know me and my personality, I'm like, yeah, that ain't happening. Ain't nobody making money on my buildings but me. You know, that's it. But that's my personality. But there's a question here. Do you raise the rents every year? I do, absolutely. Once a year, without a doubt. Do you raise your rents every year, Kris?
Before 2019, no. But now, man, I'm super aggressive because my rents, like across the border, all my properties were here because I've been in the game so long. Okay, let me tell you my philosophy before 2019. My philosophy was lower your rent a little bit, keep the tenant longer, right? Then I know, wait, lower the rent, but keep them longer, raise it up incrementally, right? But when COVID hit, dude, my rents were here, rents were up here, and I'm looking like a schmuck. I'm like, what am I doing? So
And
now,
it devalued the property, right? Because as an investor, if I come to you, I said, you tell me, hey, Dan, the house next door just sold, the property next door just sold for $1 million. I have the same house. I want $1 million. I was like, yeah, but the house next door, they had 3 tenants and they're paying $2,500 a month each. You got 3 tenants and they're only paying $1,800 a month. I can't pay you $1 million. You don't have the income to justify the $1 million.
yeah, I'm devaluing it, Dan. That's exactly what I was doing. So I'm just saying to say, we all got to pivot. Now, every year, I'm hitting my Section 8, man. I'm getting $150 a year bump every time on Section 8 because, rents are just, man, where I live, Dan, rents are just going through the roof.
Look, the reality is the rents are going through the roof everywhere. Personally, it's kind of unfair to renters, especially if their salaries aren't increasing. But the crazy part is I find myself now having to raise rents, even if I didn't even want to. And it doesn't mean that I'm making more money because my taxes are going up incredibly high.
Insurance going up,
My
repairs.
insurance on average is up 42% in the last 24 months.
You got to
Right?
pass.
Water and sewer charges are up. My cost for materials up 30, 40%. My labor cost is up 20%.
Way
So,
high.
and then people tell me, like, I'll get a lot of nasty comments on when I say this on Instagram, and they'll say, well, if you can't afford the increase of taxes, you should have bought the building. And I'm like, hold on a second. You don't know the basics of business. Whenever a product has an increase in price for the cost of material or surcharge for gas, fuel, whatever that is, it get passed on right to the consumer. My
That's right.
tenants are my consumers.
That's right. That's right. Deborah, thanks for that question. Jeff has hit up Andrew Lamb. Okay, I'll head him out. I don't remember. Bring him on the channel. Dan, I didn't show my Instagram. I showed my IG homies, but I didn't show my YouTube Roundup family. So y'all know I had one of my units been vacant since November. Before I show you I'm here, Dan, I felt this much pressure to rent that property out. No pressure at all.
No
Zero.
pressure. And tell
And
them why. Tell them
I
why.
won't stand this, man. Yeah, I want Dan to chime in too. So look, I didn't feel the pressure. We had a guy on Instagram. He had a vacancy. Dude, I could feel that. Dude, could you feel the energy coming through the screen with him, Dan?
I could.
I'm like, this dude way too emotional. So now when I get a vacancy, I'm like, like Dan said, I step back. I look at what I have around me. I look at the property. I can do that, y'all, because I'm not over leveraged. It's the leverage that
And
takes you
listen, I
out.
want everyone here to understand. It took Kris and I to get to this point a long
Oh,
time.
yeah,
But
long time.
with social media, with the like case in point, the information we're giving out here for free right now,
Mm-hmm.
you could learn how to do the same thing without having gone through the learning curves that Kris and I had to go through.
Yeah. So I had a property sitting vacant since November. I don't want y'all to see this, right? These are just a few that I hadn't shredded yet. These are the applications that I said no to. I kept these because I wanted y'all to feel what I'm showing you this. I could have said yes to any one of these people that had my property rented out back December, January, y'all. I promise you. And these are all Section 8 government. The government was paying the rental when you. So I'm letting you see this to say, just because you got Section 8 applicants don't mean they're going to be the best. Like I got
No,
one.
look. So what Kris is saying as well, I think you're saying this, Kris. Please confirm it or tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Kris is looking for personality traits, like I am. When people tell me, well, what do you look for? If you get a perfect application on paper, what do you look? Why do you have to do an interview? Since I want to see the personality traits. If that person seems like they're confrontational or short fused, I
Right.
don't want it. I don't care how good of an applicant you are, right?
Yeah.
I don't, if that person comes across as if they're a drama driven type of personality, like when something happens, it may be out of my control. They go, oh, I don't need this. Oh, who's got time for this? Or this is stressful. Yeah, it's stressful for us all. None of us have time for this, but it's a situation that happened. We got to remedy it. We got to find a resolution, right? I want somebody who's going to give me, when they call me up and say, hey, listen, there's a water leak. I said, I want to be there. I'll be there in an hour. Oh, no, you can't do that. I'm going out to dinner. No, sorry. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
Or,
that's whack.
no, you can't do that because I want to be home when you're here and I work. So can you come on Saturday? No, can't do that. It's a water leak. I want to get to it now, right?
Yeah.
So I want personality traits that are not that are proactive rather than reactive with drama. I don't want drama. I don't want stress. This is already stressful. Let's just give me access so I can fix the problem as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
I love that, Dan. So I want people to understand leverage is just like high blood pressure, y'all. It's always there working in the background. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but you got too much high blood pressure. Eventually, something's going to break. Now, I pray that y'all understand this, right? The high blood pressure, and Dan been around the block way more than me. And what I noticed early on in my life was leverage hit me every month like clockwork. It was almost like it was computerized. And I'm like, you know what? I realized that I can't beat the computer. I wasn't that good, Dan. I'm like, I'm not going to be that good of a guy. What about
Can't.
you?
I agree with you 100%. You can't beat it, but you can manage it. So
Manage
someone's
it.
someone's asking how do you not be over leveraged? Pay more in cash, higher down payment, more money set aside for backups. All of those in a combination of each other. Every
That's a
single
great.
one of those.
That's a great answer
Your
too, Dan.
questions are your answers. Every
Wow.
single one of those in conjunction with each other.
That is wow. That is y'all. This is good stuff, man. Hit that thumbs up. It's only 10 thumbs up. We got 110. Dan, when I think about the leverage of my life now, I can manage it, and sometimes I'm putting on a little bit more than I would like to do at any given time throughout the year, right? But I want to stay on her question: how do you not be over leveraged? Miss Too Beloved, I think another thing I would add is listening to the right people. We had a guy on Instagram talking about refinancing, and I just can't. When I hear people say refinance, pull that money out, getting it working, then I just don't think that everybody's going to be that sharp an investor. And further, do they have the time? Do they have the wherewithal? Some people are
Yeah, look,
working.
look, it's not a bad idea to leverage if you have a property with a lot of asset value, but is that property going to be able to sustain the new leverage with the cash flow and still provide you money to fix, capital improvements or any mishaps or emergency repairs? If it doesn't, you shouldn't be over leveraging that property. And then the property that you're putting it into, do you have what's your exit strategy? Is it a wholesale? Is it a fix and flip? Is it a long-term hold? And if it's a long-term hold, what's the cap rate on that with the cash flow, and is it going to justify the leverage? If you're doing a fix and flip, how much are you going to possibly make? And remember, we always talking about after taxes, what your real net is, and is it worth the leveraging as well as your time and the effort?
That's right. That's a big one. That's a big one, y'all. Paul productivity. Do you what's after a DSCR loan, Dan? You may know. I don't know.
Hi guys, I'm not sure, what do they mean by what's after the SCR loan? What does that mean?
I guess you buy it. I guess they're asking, do you leave it in place? Do you refinance it, or what do you do with it?
Um, It all depends on where the interest rates are, and if I'm keeping the if I'm keeping the property, I don't do anything after. I'm renovating it, I'm getting it rented, and I'm cash flowing that property. There's nothing to do other than manage your tenants, right? Managing the property. So you need to be a little bit more specific with that question.
Dan, I just want to make sure that everybody is clear. The way we buy real estate, is we go in and we take over somebody else's debt, right? So, and it's over. They give me the deed by the. So I just want people to understand when we talk about all these loan programs and all this type of credit stuff and interest rate, like that world does exist, but that's just one way to buy. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody's clear with that. Let me close this door.
Look, the reality, guys, is this. Everybody has a different risk tolerance.
That's true.
Everyone has different financial situations. Not everybody could be Kris Haskins and Dan Borrero. And some of us are actually bigger than Kris Haskins and Dan Borrero.
You're right.
So, I say don't run a race to be Dan Borrero and Kris Haskins or anyone else that you see on social media. Run your race, right? But you have to do some deep soul searching and say, what's going to make you feel rich? In my case, what my wife and I had decided when we first got married, one of the things that would make us feel rich was not a big fancy house or big cars and fancy cars. But if we could have a decent house, bring up some really good human beings, and pay for their college education, we would feel rich. And that's what happened. Now, during the course of trying to feel rich by, to get that goal, we've accomplished a lot of financial goals beyond our actual dreams. But that's because of the discipline. And this doesn't happen without having a goal, creating a plan, and then executing the plan. But to execute that plan comes with a lot of discipline.
Well, not only discipline, then do you think, when I look back at my life, I want to ask you, I'm so like just an average investor. I'm like not the best guy, right? But when I look at the uh, the industry that I'm in, the lane that I'm in, which is just happen to be real estate, it's such a big business. It almost it's like it's the tide that I get to ride up. Do you feel the same way with that?
All the time. All the time. Here's a question here, Kris. MS2BL Loved. Do you think the Senate will renew the bonus depreciation? I understand it was 100% depreciation. At what point, but not when it's down to 40% question mark. People tell me to look at real estate from a tax advantage. Look, there's a lot of tax advantages to being a real estate investor. Whether are they going to keep that in play with the Senate? I don't know. It's the Senate's pretty much they're pretty close to each other right now. It's almost an even balance right now between the Republicans and Democrats, and so is the House. I don't know if I don't even know if look when the last election happened and the Senate and the House of Representatives, there was no real clear majority. It was very close to each other. The stock market went up. And I asked my friend Gerald Peters why, because that's what he does. And he said, because nothing's going to get done. So everything will stay the same because there's not one party that has much more power than the other. So there's not going to be any dramatic change. And the market likes that. So it kind of makes sense. I don't suspect, and it's proven Gerald Peters' concept has worked. It's proven itself because not much has happened. Because it's difficult to get anything passed as a result of, it's almost equal in each house, the House of Representatives and the House of Senate.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Roxanne, I have a rental property on a DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio. Is that right? Debt service, yeah. Loan with a hard money lender, and I'm not cash flowing. Red flag. And thank you for sharing it. Anybody got questions? I want to say thank y'all for putting this in. This really gives Dan and I some meat to chew on. It's not cash flowing, and it's almost a year. and I'm ready to sell the property. Is it better just to fix and flip it and get out of it?
Man, that's a question we'd have to go deep dive in, right? So my first question would be, if it's not cash flowing, did you buy the property at the wrong number? That's
Or
my
is the
first
debt too
question.
high? Or is the debt rate interest rate too high?
And if yeah, exactly. Or is the debt interest rate too high? And then you said, is it better to fix and flip? So you own the property for a year and you haven't done any major renovations. Obviously, it needed it. That's another red flag. Why have you not? Right. So if you say, well, because it's still tenanted, okay, yeah, but cement sidewalks don't have to be, doesn't interfere with the tenants. Fixing the hallways doesn't interfere with the tenants. Fixing the roof or cleaning the yard or putting in boilers and water heaters, none of that has to do with with the tenancy, right? Or where you're disturbing their quality of life or interrupting their sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
So I'd have to ask you a lot more questions in order to advise you properly on that.
But if we had to take at face value, Dan, if I have what I had to learn the hard way, if a house isn't cash flowing, 15 years ago, I would say stick it out and wait till, but now I'm like, if you lose them, it's so easy for me. Then I guess as you get older, you see shit like it ain't cash flowing. You got to go. I mean, unless you're in like Washington State and you're buying, there are people that buy strictly for appreciation. And I know that it's out there, but that's not me. Dan, do you do that?
No, I want both appreciation and cash flow. If I don't have them both, I ain't buying.
So, Roxanne, we don't know, but from the face value, first statement, well, Dan, if somebody says a cash flow if the house isn't cash flowing, what are you going to tell them to do?
Well, actually, I'd have to ask a lot of questions. Why isn't it? A lot of times I've spoken to mentees of mine, and they say they want to get rid of it because the house isn't cash flowing. And after about 20 minutes of Q&A, I'm like, all right, do this, 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 and
What's one
this,
in your bathroom mortgage?
and you're going to be cash flowing in 3 to 6 months, right?
I had it on my
So a
iPad.
lot of times it may not be cash flowing because you're not managing the tenants or the property properly, the right way.
That could be.
And sometimes it doesn't take much in changes to make it cash flow. So there's a lot of variables that we would have to ask you, questions that we would have to ask you to then give you the sound advice.
That is a great thing, Dan. What if the rent's below market? Is that what you're saying? That could be a
Yeah,
possibility, right?
why, and then why are the rents below market? And can you legally raise the rents? Is it rent stabilized, rent controlled, open market? There's just because you say, okay, Dan Borrero and Kris Haskins said raise the rent. Well, you may
It's
not
right in
be
the
able
bathroom
to
wall.
based on whatever those laws are in your local market. So
What's she doing?
these are all variables that
Morgan,
I can't answer.
you don't have in your bathroom, doesn't have the iPad? It's in your bathroom. I got 4 bathrooms. They can't even.
So there's a question here. I'm 26 years old and I brought my first rental property.
Hold on, Dan. You
I'm in.
skipped over 5 questions.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You go over it.
Vincent, official TV. Any advice on the real estate bubble we are in now? You've been doing this
You know,
30 years, Dan. You've been doing this 30 years. You know what's going to happen.
no, I
Thank you.
don't. Actually, I don't believe we're in a bubble. I think prices are going to continue to go up, even though interest rates are going up because there's no inventory. The reality is they're not building those fast enough, and there's a reason for it, right? So from 2008 to 2013, builders weren't building. They were spot building. They weren't building big communities. And then when they did start to build, then COVID came, right, and stopped everything for a year and a half. And then now the builders that are building in the Sun Belt area, right? Let's say they're building a community with 130 doors. You got the big companies, case in point, J.P. Morgan, coming in and buying out the entire community, which is now taking more inventory off the market for first-time home buyers, right? So I don't believe we're in a bubble yet. But I don't know. I don't know when this is going to stop because nothing within the basic economics of scale that I've learned, um, indicates that the prices should even be this high. So I don't know, guys. And I could only tell you that I'm still buying. I'm not buying anything remotely close like I used to because I can't find the deals that make the sense. because there's a lot of emotional buyers out there that are betting based on the fear of losing out rather than buying based strictly on the numbers.
I went to the foreclosure auction the other day. Guy bids the property up 40,000 over what So I don't think we're in the bubble either, Dan. I think this. I think this.
Yeah, I think. I don't. Yeah,
What you would say?
this is the market we're in, but I'm not trying to predict.
A Brown says, "How important is it?"
Depends what your strategies are, right? I know in Chris's strategy, raising private money is part of his strategy, so that's very important. In my strategy, that's not really. I don't really. Do I use private money? I do. Do I use it often? I don't. I'd rather always use my money so I could always keep the most amount of profit. I want to pay myself.
Yeah, but not everybody has capital laying around, Dan.
You're 100%. This is why I said it earlier. Like, not everybody. Don't run Chris's race. Don't run my race, because we've been running this race for 35 years. I mean, I've been doing it for 35 years. Chris been doing it since 2004, Chris. Right? So you got to run your own race. Raising private money is good, but remember something, because Chris gave me this terminology. Create a road behind you first, then go out and raise private money. It's going to be a lot easier to raise private money when you show a road behind you that you've, overcome the challenges, you've had some success, and you could prove that you're going to figure out a solution to the problems as they arise.
That's right. Don't be starting. I don't know why people think they got a money problem, Dan, when in actuality, they have a strategy problem. Money's not
Precisely.
going to fix your business. Even when you did that consultation with the one guy, you were like, man, I don't want you to borrow nobody's money. You can't. If you haven't learned how to manage what you have, if you get more, you're going to screw it up.
Yeah, like learn how to manage your own money first. Get a relationship with money. Why would anybody give you money if you don't have a relationship with money? If
Which
you
your
can't
own.
manage your own money, why would anybody in God's name give you their money? They have it because they have a relationship with money.
Good
If
point.
you don't have it, it's because you don't have a relationship with money. What's the incentive? Why would they trust you?
Wow. That's a good point. A Brown, private money is, for me, it is a number 10. It's imperative. There is no alternative. We raise money every day. So, yeah, I would say yes. Shamar, I'm 26 years young. Good for you. I bought my first rental property. Let's stay there, Dan. Let's congratulate this dude. I can't clap, but congratulations, Shamar. 26 years young, you bought a rental property. You are way ahead of a lot of people. I'm in the military. Thank you for your service. Stationed in Montgomery and plan to move to Miami. Should I hire a property manager? Ooh, I got to know what your cash
Um,
flow is. What if he only makes $100 a month, Dan? I don't know. What is he?
that's if it's a single family home for one property, it's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough to make money on that. But again, we don't know what he bought it at. We don't know what his cash flow is. I could give you some tips on hiring property managers. I would not hire a property manager that is not currently managing no less than $75. And because at $75, they could afford then to have someone in the office that's actually going to talk to you when you pick call. They could then afford to have like a handyman on payroll to run immediately to the door to fix whatever those problems are. I would not hire a property manager that doesn't have a technology system that allows you to look at what they're doing on it, at any given time. And I'll give you an example of that. So, if my tenant sent in a request for a repair, I want to see it on their system. And when did they respond to the tenant? What did they do to fix the repair, right? So if the tenant says, hey, listen, I'm not paying rent because you guys don't make repairs, I could go back and see within the system, did they respond? Did the tenant actually ask for the repair? So who's the problem, the tenant or the property manager? So I'm looking for transparency, right? So these are the little things that I look for in a property manager.
So Shamar, the same guy, he bought the property at 190, 6.8%. So his payment has got to be 15. Okay, He can get $1,900 rent. Mortgage is $1,500. We got $400 there.
I wouldn't do it.
I don't even know. Dan, would you? I know we don't know the whole story, but he's leaving out. He's a new owner. He's moving. How far is Montgomery from Miami?
It's got to be what?
8
That's in
hours?
Alabama. It's after Georgia, so I
8, 9 hours drive, maybe?
maybe
So
longer than that. 12 hours.
let's say it's 10 hours. Shamar, you're gonna have a challenging time managing that property, brother. I'm just gonna be honest with you. So
Property manager's going to get $190. Then every time the property manager does a new lease, it's another $150, right? And then of course, property manager is going to send somebody there to fix the electricity, and they're going to charge you $3,000, but the property manager is getting 10% kickback from the electrician. This is just part of the business, guys. There's not enough meat on that bone for everybody to eat.
I would say, Dan, we don't know the whole story, but my gut's telling me he might need to go ahead and move on and get rid of that one.
Yeah, you might, if you could make some profit on it, take the money and run.
Yeah, dude. I know you want to be an owner. You're young, but darn, could he sell or finance it then to somebody and just make the money and don't do no repairs?
See, it all depends. So if it's in New York, I ain't seller financing anything.
It ain't in New York.
Right. But if it like in the state of Florida, if it's land, I'm going to sell a finance all day long. Would I sell a finance a house or a condo? No, I won't, because it's more difficult if the people live in it. Now, if I'm selling it to an investor where he's going to have renters, those people are easier to foreclose on than people who actually live in the property. So I
Yes.
guess that's a question you should be asking your attorney. Hey, if I have to foreclose, how much is it going to cost me, and how long is it going to take? And then based on that, is one of the determinations that determines if you should sell a finance.
Deborah Jackson, one of our channel members, thank you so much for your support. I want to use equity to get my first investment, but I have debt that I'm working to pay. I'm working down. Okay. Oh, that's a statement. I would, yeah. You know what's weird, Dan? You know what I learned the other day? A statement. Check this out. There's two ways to earn money. Earn more money. Make more, spend less. What would you say to that?
That's a problem of me physically. In life, that what Kris just said affects us all in life, right? In different aspects. So, you know, doctor says you need to lose weight. He goes, you working? I says, sure I am. He goes, why you not losing the weight? I says, because I haven't given up what I like to do, which is eat, right? In Chris's case, you know, if I want to save, I have to spend less. Well, in my case, physically, if I want to, lose the weight, I got to eat less, right? So, it's all about, and unfortunately, that's what every aspect of life, right? If whatever we want, it's like, I remember we said once, somebody asked when they was saying, oh, well, people were telling him they don't have down payments. They can't afford the down payments. And we walk into the parking lot. He said, man, I walk by all these nice brand new cars. There's a whole lot of down payments in the parking lot. Like
I've heard him say that. I've heard him say you drive with your down payment,
you
kid.
try to get down payment, so yes, that's what Kris just said. It's 100% spot on with every aspect of our lives.
All right, I just want y'all to get that. There's nothing wrong with paying down debt. All right, it's 9:30, Dan. I gotta let you go to bed, man. Everybody say good
Thank
nighty
you.
nighty to Dan.
Kris, man, it's always a pleasure doing this with you. I want to just share with the audience, I do a free mentorship class every single Wednesday night. Every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. I just had my 100th free mentorship class last week on Wednesday. So if you want to join us, it's just go to danielborrerojr.com. I think a couple of my members might be on here. Guys, if you don't mind, just put that website in so if people want to join us. It's Daniel Borrero Jr. Or you could go to usalandventures.com.
Dan, it's two more questions. You got time or you gone?
Go for it.
All right, don't forget, y'all, tomorrow, 7 o'clock, come on back. I'm going to open up my subject to lease option virtual workshop. You do not want to miss how to buy real estate without having to beg banks for loans. All right. So I want to break it all down. Deborah says, should I pay down my high debts first, or just should I pay down everything, or the high debts first, Dan?
The debt you have with the highest interest. So let's say you had, for simplistic purposes, 2 credit cards that you owed money on, and one's charging you 19%, the other one's charging you 14%. Put as much as you can towards principal on the 19% one, right? Get rid of that one first. It's charging you the most. Or you could combine them and refinance them with other credit cards, right? Where you're only then paying 3% every 6 months. But you have to always look for different alternative ways to refinance the high debt or pay the highest debt down first.
What I've learned, Deborah, is the more debt you pay on those higher debts, it almost creates a muscle in you that allows you to just I'm like a debt grinder now. I'm looking for debt. I'm like, bring it on so I can get. I'm trying to wipe as much of it out as I can. Did you find out that it worked? It worked for you like that too,
That's
Dan?
exactly what happens. Same thing when you're saving money, right? You start saving, and then you start seeing that money grow, and it's like, well, you know what? Instead of me putting another $100 a month, let me put $200 a month. You all of a sudden figure out where to find that $200 from,
I
right?
love it.
So, because you start to see it,
I
grow,
love
and then it's a mental
It's a
exercise.
muscle. It's a muscle. I never. Yeah, I'm a principal too, Dan. I was paying $100 a month extra. Then I found myself doing 4,000 one month. I'm like, yo, this is really cool. It's almost like it's a game that you play with your mind. All right. Last question. We let Dan. Gotta go 99. Miss to be loved. What would be your monthly cash flow? It's a great question. What's your monthly minimum cash flow on a single family property, Dan?
You want to answer that one first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. So for me, since we're buying them creatively, if I get $500 to $600, I'm good, right? But even if I'll get at this point in my life 200 to 300, because now I'm focusing on wealth building. I'm focusing on wealth building. Like 15 years ago, cash flow. I'm like, God, I gotta pay these bills. I gotta get my cash flow. I gotta make sure that I'm making enough money to live. But everybody has different strategies in life. So generally speaking, 500 to 600. But I will go lower just because now, if I buy it creatively, the tenant just pays off the debt for me in 30 years.
So in my case, it all depends, right? I'm looking at appreciation as well as cash flow. So if I'm getting appreciation and cash flow, then the minimal cash flow, let's say I'm going to keep this real simplistic. Property cost me $100,000, buying it, renovating it, everything. I need to make $800 a month. That's $9,600. In a year and 6 months, that property, I got all my money. Rather than 10 years and 6 months, I got all my money out of it, right?
Wow,
But
that's sweet.
it's not just about getting my money out. It's also about, where's the property going to be in 10 years? If that property cost me the 100 and I don't believe it's going to be worth 200, 250 in those 10 years, I don't want it. Because in those 10 years, I want to get all my money out, right? And I want the property to double. If it didn't double, if it's not a potential double, then I don't want to do it, because I could take that same money, that same time, that same energy, the same skill set, and put it somewhere else that I could get that return in. So there's always an opportunity cost to every decision we make. There's always alternative ways to make money. So we need to always look at where we have to be in relation to where, if we put that money into something else, what else we would make with it.
Good point. Thanks, Dan. All right, y'all. Make sure you give us a follow. Hit that thumbs up button to come back tomorrow. Opening up my subject to virtual workshop. Be here on Monday, 7 o'clock. Dan, anything else, buddy?
I'm good, man. Thank you.
All right. See y'all soon. Peace.
Have a good night. Take care, everyone.
Yep.